The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
I want to begin by saying it's an honour to rise on behalf of my constituents, the good people of Brandon, Souris, Westman. And it's an important topic we're discussing here today. I hear often when I'm back at home and from constituents when I'm here about the challenging housing climate that we're living in. No part of Manitoba is escaping that. I represent Brandon, the province's second largest city, and I also have some of the smallest communities in our province, and there seems to be a lack of housing and affordable housing options just about everywhere you go, regardless of the size of community. And so we know action does need to be taken on this front. And so it's good to hear that my colleague, one of the class of 2025, that I have had the pleasure of meeting, has brought this forward. I'm glad to hear somebody on that side of the aisle is thinking about young people and affordable housing, because if you hear the front bench on the Liberal side talk, they seem to think that everything's doing great. All of their initiatives have been a roaring success over the last 10 years. There should be no housing shortages. The programs run perfectly. And we know that that's not the reality on the ground that our communities and young people across the country are facing when they're trying to get out of their parents' houses and get into the housing market themselves. So while we appreciate the member from Nova Scotia bringing this forward, I think, unfortunately, all it is another framework, which is part of the problem of why there is a housing shortage in this country, and very skeptical on this side of the House that we think this would have any impact on improving the situation. In fact, it could quite likely make it worse. Young Canadians don't need another strategy from these Liberals. We've had a few. They've already got the National Housing Strategy. They've already got the Housing Accelerator Fund. They've got other programs under the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation. We've got all kinds of different initiatives, Build Canada Homes now, that they've announced and announced and announced, and almost no homes have been built relative to the amount of money that's been established or, allocated to all those different initiatives and strategies and frameworks. And so why is that, Madam Speaker? Well, because the Liberals have put so many barriers in place to actually accessing that money, it's completely burdensome for builders to access it. And so many, and I hear from them often, I often ask, Brandon got money under the Housing Accelerator Fund. Why aren't more affordable units being built in the city? Well, the developers, quite honestly, have been very candid with me that there is so much red tape and bureaucratic nonsense at the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation and hoops to jump through and boxes to tick that many of them have just walked away completely from dealing with government to try and build these units, because it's just so difficult to get anything built through them. And they don't need to do that. Meaning build affordable housing units. I mean, they're running successful businesses on their own. Government needs them to be doing it, and so they should be making it as easily accessible as possible for these businesses to be incentivized to build affordable housing units and to build affordable homes that people can afford to buy. I do get concerned as well that we're often talking about just affordable rental units and not incentivizing the private sector to build homes and encourage home ownership. And I think too often these Liberals get sidetracked just talking about the rental market, and not enough time spent on focusing on home ownership. Now, we had hoped that the Build Canada Homes might take a different approach. It's been a pretty slow start, but nonetheless, we still have hope that perhaps maybe the Liberals will find a way to get the bureaucracy that they've massively expanded and put in the way removed, so that builders can actually get to work and build homes that Canadians can afford. Too often, I think also, Madam Speaker, I must say that these programs are focused on the major urban centers in our province. The motion today is talking about young people and affordable housing. I represent a lot of very small communities, as do many others in this chamber. And often I hear of young people having to leave the small rural areas because there's nothing available to buy. Some of these towns may have just one builder, or not even have a builder in the town. They bring one in from another community. And so those builders are coming in at the request of perhaps a retiring farmer who has got a little bit of money, and the builder's eager to build a large retirement home, but there's very few affordably sized houses getting built in our rural communities, which means young people leave. They've got good jobs, but they can't find anywhere to live. They don't want to stay with their parents anymore. They want to get out, live independently, move into that phase of their life, but there's nowhere to live. And so they take off for Brandon or Winnipeg or Regina or somewhere else, and we lose them. And we lose their job and their spouse's job and their kids out of the school. And our rural communities are fading away. And so we have to make sure that these programs that the Liberals continue to deliver are accessible to these small towns, small municipalities. And I'm not talking about, to some people in this chamber, the city of Brandon and 56,000 people is small. I'm talking about a town of 1,000 people. These municipalities do not have a whole lot of extra staff to fill out immensely complicated applications for government grants and programs. They're running as lean as they can possibly run already. And I hear that from the builders too. I mean, builders in small towns do not have massive staffs that have time and resources to fill out these application programs. It's quite often the builder themselves that are doing the books, either very early in the morning or very late at night, and then they're working on a job all day. They don't have time to sit down and spend hours and hours building an application to a large government program. So the Liberals need to stop talking about frameworks and strategies, and all that means is red tape, red tape, red tape, more red tape. They need to get all of the red tape that they've added over the last 10 years out of the way so that people can actually get out there and build homes. And we would strongly encourage my colleague who brought this forward to maybe consider adding in some red tape reduction measures into this bill. This will still move through the legislative process, I'm sure, and hopefully some measures to not add to the regulatory burden for builders, but actually remove some of those burdens, get added into this bill as we move along. At that point, then, it might actually give builders some optimism in this country. And so I think it's important also to recognize that, as we so often hear from the Liberals, they think we don't have any solutions. They say all we do is complain all the time. It's just perhaps that they don't like our solutions, but we've got a number of them, Madam Speaker, and I'd just like to outline a few of them here today. Number one, reducing housing costs by cutting the GST on all new homes under a $1.3 million build cost, saving up to $65,000 on the cost of a new home and $3,000 a year in mortgage payments. Identify 15% of federal buildings and lands to sell for housing in livable new neighborhoods within 100 days. And that would allow us to build thousands of new homes much faster than the glacial pace that we're seeing. Also, cut building taxes. We need to incentivize municipalities to reduce development charges, and we would then reimburse them up to a maximum of $50,000 and scrap the underused housing tax that costs more to administer than is collected. We need to remove gatekeepers to fast-track home building through shovel-ready zones that the federal government would create, so municipalities could then enable builders to get in right away, get the work done, and we need to tie federal infrastructure dollars to results, and that goes for municipalities as well. The carrot and the stick approach, Madam Speaker, it's not new, and we need to start incentivizing these municipalities to bring down development fees so that builders can build and they aren't adding those added development fees onto the cost of rent. I mean, we can have a building that's 15% affordable housing units. The rest of the units in that building should also be reasonably priced. But when you've got municipalities that are doubling or tripling their development fees, all that just gets passed on to the consumer, which is young people who are trying to rent in this country until they can save up for a mortgage and get into their first home. So these are the ways that the federal Liberals could use the billions of dollars that are tied up in bureaucratic red tape and actually deliver more affordable homes and units for young Canadians. Thank you.